Imagine that everything around you is a grand mistake. Your existence, your pain, your joys, all the result of a cosmic blunder. For Arthur Schopenhauer, this is not just a possibility, it is the very essence of reality. The world, according to him, should not even exist. But what if he was completely wrong? What if, instead of a mistake, life is an opportunity? Friedrich Nietzsche emerges as a rebellious voice against Schopenhauer's pessimism, proclaiming that life should not be denied, but celebrated and conquered. This sets the stage for one of the greatest philosophical clashes in history. Is the world an inevitable mistake or an opportunity for those bold enough to embrace it? To understand why Schopenhauer saw the world as a mistake, we must first look at his central concept, the will. According to him, everything in existence is driven by a blind, irrational force that compels us to survive, reproduce, and suffer endlessly. Life, in his view, is a cycle of unfulfilled desires. The moment we achieve something, the satisfaction fades, and we crave something else. This endless pursuit creates suffering, pain that has no higher meaning, no divine purpose, no ultimate redemption. Existence itself, he argued, is a cruel joke played on us by nature. Schopenhauer believed that the only way to escape this torment was through denial of the will, renouncing desires, embracing asceticism, and ultimately rejecting life itself. To him, the world was a prison, and true wisdom lay in accepting its tragic nature rather than foolishly trying to find meaning in it. But Nietzsche saw this idea as the ultimate betrayal of life itself. He wasn't just against Schopenhauer, he sought to destroy his entire worldview. Nietzsche looked at Schopenhauer's philosophy and saw weakness, a surrender to suffering instead of a battle against it. Where Schopenhauer preached renunciation, Nietzsche called for affirmation. For Nietzsche, suffering was not a mistake of existence, but an essential part of it. Pain, struggle, and hardship were not curses to escape, but challenges to overcome. He believed that those who embraced life's difficulties could transform themselves into something greater. This was the foundation of his idea of the Übermensch, the overman, the individual who rises above suffering and takes control of his own destiny. Instead of seeing life as a prison, Nietzsche saw it as a battlefield, one where only the strong, the daring, and the creative could truly live. He rejected Schopenhauer's idea that desire should be eliminated. Instead, he argued that it should be harnessed, not as blind craving, but as a driving force to shape the world according to one's own will. To Nietzsche, the world was not a mistake. It was a challenge. And those who dared to embrace it with courage and power would find their own meaning instead of waiting for salvation. But this raises a critical question. If suffering is inescapable, who was truly right? Schopenhauer, who saw it as proof that life was meaningless, or Nietzsche, who saw it as the fuel for greatness? Schopenhauer and Nietzsche didn't just disagree, they stood at opposite extremes of what it means to exist. Schopenhauer saw life as an illusion of hope built on an endless cycle of suffering. His response? Escape. Detach from desires, reject ambition, and withdraw from the illusions of the world. In his eyes, those who pursued power, success, or pleasure were only deepening their own suffering. True wisdom was found in renunciation. Nietzsche, on the other hand, despised this mentality. To him, Schopenhauer's philosophy was a philosophy of the defeated, a doctrine for those too weak to face reality. Instead of escaping suffering, Nietzsche argued, we must embrace it, use it, and transcend it. The will to power was not something to suppress, it was the very force that could drive people to greatness. But here lies the paradox. Nietzsche himself suffered immensely. Physically weak, plagued by illness, and socially isolated, his life was filled with pain. And yet, instead of seeing this as proof of Schopenhauer's pessimism, he saw it as a reason to revolt against it. Suffering in his eyes was a test, a way to prove one's strength. This is where their conflict becomes personal. Schopenhauer found peace in giving up the fight, while Nietzsche found purpose in fighting until the last breath. But which one was truly right? Is the pursuit of meaning an illusion, as Schopenhauer claimed? Or is meaning something we create through strength and defiance, as Nietzsche believed? The answer to this question might define how you see your own life. The clash between Schopenhauer and Nietzsche didn't just remain in philosophy books. It shaped the way we think about life today. Schopenhauer's pessimism echoes in modern existential crises, in people who feel trapped in an endless cycle of struggle with no real purpose. His ideas influenced figures like Sigmund Freud, who built psychoanalysis on the idea that human desires are often a source of suffering. His view of the world as an illusion of pain is reflected in Buddhism and in modern minimalist movements that advocate renouncing desires to find peace. Nietzsche, however, became the philosopher of self-overcoming, ambition, and rebellion. His ideas resonate in today's culture of personal growth, self-improvement, and the drive to create one's own meaning rather than accept a pre-given one. He inspired existentialists like Jean-Paul Sartre, modern leadership theories, and even the idea of embracing challenges as opportunities to grow. But there's a twist. Nietzsche criticized Schopenhauer for being weak, but his own philosophy was so demanding that even he struggled to live up to it. His rejection of escapism required an almost superhuman strength, something most people find nearly impossible to achieve. So, this leaves us with a question. In today's world, full of uncertainty, challenges, and personal struggles, should we accept life's suffering and detach from it, or should we fight against it and create our own destiny? This is the real battle between Schopenhauer and Nietzsche, and, in the end, the choice is yours. Schopenhauer and Nietzsche offer two radically different ways of seeing the world. If you resonate with Schopenhauer, you might see life as an endless cycle of struggle, one where peace comes not from chasing illusions, but from renouncing them. In this view, true wisdom is about accepting suffering, detaching from desires, and seeking inner stillness. But if Nietzsche's vision speaks to you, then suffering isn't something to escape. It's the fire that forges greatness. Life is not a mistake, but an opportunity to rise above the chaos, impose your own meaning, and become stronger through the challenges you face. Neither of them gives an easy answer. Detaching from life might lead to peace, but does it mean giving up? Embracing struggle might lead to power, but does it become an exhausting burden? So now, the real question is, which path will you take? Will you reject life's suffering, or will you use it to shape something greater? The world is in front of you. A mistake or an opportunity? The choice is yours.